Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Tori Nook Talk Show, where real conversations meet real success. I'm Tori Nook. I'm the CEO and founder of Anchor Retail. I'm an entrepreneur, a wife, mother of three. And in each episode, I feature founders, entrepreneurs, wellness leaders, and personal development voices who've built their successful careers and their lives with intention, intuition, and a strong sense of who they are. We talk about the decisions that shape a life, the moments that test you, and the habits and the mindset that keep you moving forward. And today, I'm sitting down with someone who's been in the commercial real estate brokerage trenches for almost 4 decades now. And he still has the energy of somebody who just closed their first deal. And my guest today is Allen C. Buchanan. He is the principal at Lee and Associates Commercial Real Estate Services Group, which is in Southern California. Allen presides in Orange County with his wife and children. And he is one of the most respected industrial real estate advisors in the country. With over 4 decades of experience, Allen has built his career advising owners and occupiers on acquisitions, dispositions, leasing, very complex strategic real estate decisions. Allen is a 10-year contributing columnist for the Southern California News Group, where his weekly column reaches tens of thousands of readers and is widely followed for his practical insight, market perspective, and straight talk approach to commercial real estate. He is also the creator of the Sequence framework. We'll get more into his book, The Sequence, next. And this is a step-by-step system for sourcing, qualifying, executing, and expanding commercial real estate transactions. He developed this from decades of real-world deal making. He's a frequent speaker, trainer, and mentor. Allen has delivered seminars, trainings, programs to brokers, investors, business owners from all over the country. His teachings focus on the process of prediction, relationships over transactions, and long-term credibility over short-term wins. Allen holds an SIOR designation, and he's earned by a small percentage of commercial real estate brokers and professionals worldwide. And he's also known for his collaborative style, disciplined execution, and unwavering commitment to client advocacy. And as a fun personal note, he's been married for over 40 years. He doesn't drink. He's vegan, and he's generally active on social media. And if you're not following him, I advise everyone to. So what I want to do is unpack all of this in today's episode. So welcome, Allen.
Thank you so much, man. I'm just gonna carry you alongside me and have you introduce me everywhere. That was amazing. Thank you.
Like your PR person. But I definitely want to get like real and behind the scenes, because I like how you're very real and open, and how you conduct business, and with all the training you've done. And one of the things I've been following you, what I like is how you understand the end game, and the real game is relationships, knowledge, delivering with high levels of integrity and honesty in your craft. And I know that you didn't originally start off your career in commercial real estate. So I'd like to just get into, where you're from, where you went to college, and what did you start doing right out of school?
Thank you. I grew up in the state of Arkansas. I grew up in a little place called Texarkana, which is right on the border of Texas and Arkansas. I was actually born on the Texas side of town and grew up on the Arkansas side of town. So I am a lifelong Razorback. Went to the University of Arkansas, and grew up in a family business. We manufactured soft drinks. We had Dr. Pepper, 7-Up, Pepsi.
Cool.
When I was in high school, my dad acquired a Budweiser beer distributorship in Miller County, Arkansas. And so I always believed that I would follow that path and be in the family business. And about a year before graduation, my dad sat me down and he said, look, I'm not going to hire you because you don't know squat, except he didn't use the word squat. Right. My dad was very direct that way. And I said, so what are you saying? I mean, never going to have a position here in the family business, or I need to go do something first, earn my chops? He said, yeah. He said, go get a job, figure out how the big boys do things, and then maybe you and I'll talk after you've done that. So I frankly was devastated because I'd spent my college career and summers leading up to college, sort of working in the business and learning different aspects of the business. But I happened upon the Procter and Gamble Distributing Company, which is an amazing company. I know you live in Ohio, and Procter was founded in Cincinnati, and they moved me to Northern California, where I started my consumer goods business career and did that for 5 years until I discovered commercial real estate. So, had it not been for my dad laying a pretty heavy life lesson on me at age 22, I probably would still be living in Texarkana and maybe selling soft drinks. Who knows?
Right, exactly. Well, your dad's personality is very equivalent to, I think, a lot of people that we work with on a daily basis. So I think
Correct.
that tough, hard, no BS personality is a great way to set you up for the real world. And I have to give him credit for not coddling you, really.
Right.
I mean, the fact that he knows what's good for his business and his family business and what's really best for you. I don't think you as a person could have learned who you were without him being so brutally honest and have serious boundaries for himself too. Very
You
interesting.
know, yeah, that's very intuitive on your part. And it's interesting. I hadn't ever thought about it until you just mentioned it. But one of the things that I do with young practitioners is I play a bit hard to get. I don't do it trying to be a bad person. I just believe that persistence is important, and it's almost the way in which someone pursues you, if they want a job or if they want a moment of your time,
Right.
that really sets them apart. And so who knows, my father may have been testing me. He may have been saying, let's see how hard you come back at me and how
True.
you sell your value.
That's
I
true.
didn't do either. I
You
kind
didn't.
of
I was going to ask you
cowered,
that
and no,
next.
I didn't do either. I kind of cowered and said, okay, well, dad's spoken. I guess that's what we're doing, you know? So, but very interesting observation on your part. I would expect nothing less of you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I want to know what happened at the end of the day with the family business then, because you didn't come back.
Yeah. So
You
interesting.
went and
Yeah.
got your job.
Interesting. Yeah. Interestingly, he sold it. What would it have been? 7 years later, he sold the family business.
Interesting. Okay.
Um,
Good for him.
so maybe, you know what? Maybe he knew that in the back of his mind that the next 4 or 5 years were going to be building the enterprise value with the idea of selling it.
Right.
He just certainly didn't share that with me in 1979, but he may have had that. He may have had that as his end goal, clearly. And so, yeah, that's and it's kind of sad in a way that
Right.
that corner of 24th Street and State Line Avenue, the old plant still sits,
Mm,
and it's sort of a shell of its former self. And you really think back to how many folks he employed and
yeah.
how many lives were changed, and
Yeah.
it's not there anymore. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, that is. That is. I come from a big family business too and married into one. So I totally understand what you're talking about.
A lot of drama.
Tons of drama. I mean, actually, I personally didn't even want to work for my father because I needed to just preserve, I think, just too many strong personalities in a room. And but I still want peace too, where they were content with fighting all the time and arguing and still having to see each other at Sunday dinner. And I just didn't want that kind of life,
Yeah.
and luckily it all obviously did work out. And for me as well, getting into commercial real estate. Now, to back up, you took a job with Procter and Gamble, major big corporate company. How many years were you there and what did you do for them?
I was there for 3 years exactly.
Okay.
And I had 3 jobs with Procter and Gamble Distributing Company. My first job was
Okay.
I was a sales representative. They called me a section sales representative. And
Okay.
I would go store to store and try to sell programs that Procter and Gamble had sort of deemed down to us. I then was transferred to Seattle, Washington, and I worked directly under the district manager. I was what was called a district field rep. So I had no personal people responsibility, but I
Okay.
did have major accounts, and I worked directly for the district manager and worked on alongside what were called unit managers who did in fact have people. And so then I was promoted to Southern California, and I was called a unit manager. So I had 6 section sales reps. I had, I believe, 3 major accounts. I had Albertsons. I had certified grocers that I would call on. And then I was approached by a large national wine distribution company that was hiring a lot of Procter Gamble unit managers, and they
Okay.
paid me 30% more than I was making. And I took a job with the wine business. So I was at the wine business for 2 years. So a total of 5 years in the consumer goods business.
Well, that's good training, being in sales to lead up to
Phenomenal.
commercial real estate. So what what was the trigger to get into commercial real estate?
The trigger was my territory was growing because I was advancing. I was doing well. But as my territory was growing, my time on an airplane was also growing. And I
Mhm.
had a wife who I cherish. I had a little baby who was 4 months old at the time.
Mhm.
And I was missing too many very important events. I was missing my child rolling over and my child sitting up for the first time,
Right.
spending evenings with my wife, and it just
Mhm.
wasn't working for a young family. Wasn't
Right. It's
wasn't
hard.
the life that we chose to lead. And so, yeah, I walked in one Saturday morning and I handed my boss my company car keys. I said, "I'm done." And he goes, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know, but I'm not doing this anymore." So yeah, that's what really led me to explore different career paths and on a commissioned basis, and how I
Mhm.
happened upon commercial real estate.
Did you know you wanted to take a commission only job, or did you not know
No,
until
not
you
not
found what you wanted?
necessarily. Not
Okay.
necessarily. You know, when I found myself unemployed by my own volition, I
Mhm.
called my dad and I said, "Hey, I really don't know what to do here. Can you give me some advice?" And he goes, "Well, I have a real dear friend in Los Angeles, and his name is Jack Atwood. He's the president of Coca-Cola Bottling Los Angeles. And why don't you go sit with Jack? He's a really good man. He'll
Mhm.
shoot you straight." My dad thought I probably was looking for another career or another position in consumer goods. And so that was a good step. But when I sat with Mr. Atwood and explained to Mr. Atwood, I don't want a cap on my income. I don't necessarily want people responsibility. I don't want territory confines, but I also don't want to be on an airplane, 4 nights a week.
Right.
And he heard all those and he says, "Have you ever considered commercial real estate?" And I
Oh,
said, "I don't even know what that is."
he was a trigger.
Right. So he was the trigger. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it just sounded very interesting. And I said, how would I break into something like that? And he said, "Well, what I'd suggest is get out the yellow pages and find out who the key commercial real estate companies are and start calling them," which is
Yeah.
which is did.
Yeah. So how many interviews did you get when
I'm
you
sorry.
I said, how many interviews did you wind up getting after you picked up the phone from, because this is pre-web, pre-Google, so you had to get the paper phone book. How many calls did you make and how many
I
interviews did
had I was 4 for 4. So how's that? I called Coldwell Banker Commercial at the time, which is obviously
Mhm.
now CB Richard Ellis.
Yeah.
I called Grubb and Ellis, which is now Newmark. I called Lee and Associates, and I called a group called Ashwell Snyder, which was a spinoff from a local boutique firm. And I got 4 meetings. So I was 4 for 4, got 4 meetings. The Grubb interview led to 2 other meetings. The Lee interview led to 2 other meetings. And I really narrowed the field down to those two and chose.
Okay, so Alan, you went and you're 4 out of 4 with the 4 commercial real estate brokerage firms that your dad's friend told you to go look up and call. Why did you decide to go to Lean Associates? Because I want to let our listeners know Alan has been there his whole career, which this is not the norm. Like this is
Right.
and I want to also unpack that, like why you've been there that long too. So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
with
No
why
one
you
else would
chose.
have me.
Yeah, let's start with why you went with them.
Yeah. So I appreciate that question because it's kind of cool. So because the decision to go into commercial real estate was very much a family decision, and my family at the time was my wife of 4 years and our baby who was 4 or 5 months old at the
Right.
time. So when it was time to make a decision between
Mhm.
Grubb and Ellis and Lee and Associates, we brought our baby. in his little carrier.
Yeah.
And we brought him into both interviews. And I asked my wife to ask whatever questions she wanted of the gentleman that I was going to be working for at Grubb Ellis. And we did the same thing with Lee and Associates. Grubb Ellis was great. They had a very corporate feel. We got the sense that, hey, this is going to be, chapter 2 of the consumer goods trail, and that's not the direction we wanted to go.
Yeah.
Lee and Associates at the time, get this, Lee and Associates at the time had 2 offices.
Okay.
And we were the second of the chain. We now have 85 offices.
Right. Where was the first office? In LA?
El Toro, California, which is now the Irvine office.
Gotcha.
Okay. So we had 2 offices, and so we were tiny, but it felt very family oriented. It felt very entrepreneurial. The culture there was amazing, and they were providing private offices for practitioners at the time versus being in a bullpen, which I really thought was cool.
I luckily always had that, and it's the way to go.
Yeah. So I've never worked in a cube. I know many people swear by them. I think it would be very difficult, but
no thanks.
I mean, there's a lot of buzz and noise, but if you keep your door open, you get the buzz and the noise anyway. But anyway, those are the reasons. And, I look at it as being very providential. My wife and I prayed a great deal about the next step because, frankly, the first step had been a misstep.
Right.
So we wanted to make sure that we nailed it on the second go around. And so I really believe that finding Lee and choosing Lee was divinely inspired.
For sure.
And I've been there 42 years and a couple of months. So never worked for any other commercial real estate company.
And what was their culture clearly that made you stick? Because we all know that people don't just work at places because of the money. I mean, clearly you have a peace of mind. You feel very wanted and accepted there. Tell me about that. What has kept you there?
Yeah. And frankly, the culture is still very much the same today that it was 42 years ago. It is amazing. There was a huge, as I mentioned, there was a huge spirit of entrepreneurship. So as opposed to feeling as though you're an employee working for a big company that was going to tell you top down what to do, Lee and Associates was very much a bottom up organization.
Okay.
We were ownership driven. So there were 12 gentlemen, no ladies at the time, 12 gentlemen in my office that owned the office, owned our office, if you will. And the thought of being an owner of that office was very appealing, where I could make decisions ultimately, have some ownership. There was also a huge spirit of cooperation. And you have to understand in the 1980s, in the mid 1980s, commercial real estate practitioners were walled gardens. There was no sharing. If I'm working on something that, maybe I've got a 30,000 square foot listing, you've got a 30,000 square foot occupant, I'm not going to tell you about it because I'm competing with you. I'm not cooperating with you.
Right.
And so it was, and I didn't realize this at the time, but as I got into it, I did. That culture of cooperation, of collaboration came through loud and clear. All of the shareholders, partners, we called us at the time, were very caring, giving, willing to spend time with me, willing to answer my questions. There wasn't this, it didn't feel as though, hey, I'm on the clock. I can give you 10 minutes. At the end of that 10 minutes, you're off on your own kind of thing. So it was just a gut feel. And, I have to hand it to my wife, Carla.
Yeah.
She heard the Grubb pitch and she said, I don't mind if you do commercial real estate, but you're not going to do it there.
Right.
Then we went to Lee and Associates. We walked out and she goes, that's where you need to be.
Right.
So let's figure out how we do it.
Well, what I think is really interesting about Lee and Associates is that level of culture that you experience, which unfortunately is not the norm in our industry. I'd say you probably get it. And I realize they only had their second location when you started, but you usually get that more at a private office if you're lucky. Okay. And you're in a nice cultured small boutique like mine. And the thing is, in my opinion, being a business owner, and I'm sure you can totally add more on top of what I think, but I feel that it's all about who you hire. They're very cognizant about who and the type of personality and the type of person that they want working there in order to keep that community, family, like helpful environment where, you're not hating going to work every day.
Right. Yeah. And I think probably a part of it now looking back was the fact that I pursued them.
Hmm.
Right. And that's the way you and I make a living today. We
Right.
go out and we pursue prospects.
Right.
And so that was the approach I took. And I'm sure at the time, because I think about the associates that were at our office when I joined,
Hmm.
we have sort of two levels. We have shareholders, we have associates. I actually have three, but those are the two main ones.
Right.
And thinking about the associates at our company at the time, and one was the son of a developer who had done a lot of business with one of our partners at the time, and that
Hmm.
was a natural progression.
Hmm.
There were a couple that were with different companies that knew our shareholders, partners at the time, and
Hmm.
it was sort of a natural progression to come to work side by side with them. I probably was the only one that had picked up the phone and said, "Hey, I'd like to explore a career in commercial real
Yeah.
estate." So yeah, that could have been part of it too.
I find it really interesting that your wife came with you. You're the first person I ever met who had a spouse go on an interview. Did you ask them if your wife could come, or how did that go? Or did you
No,
just bring her?
no, I didn't. As a matter of fact, and I'll tell you, I'll share just another quick story with you. So when I was with Procter and Gamble,
Hmm.
we had a managers meeting at a certain restaurant,
Okay.
and there were a half a dozen of us. And I invited my wife to come over after dinner was over when we were having cocktails.
Hmm.
And she showed up, and I got my wrist slapped big time.
Really
Yeah. How dare you? I
interesting.
mean, we're here and we're conducting business, and you invite your
But this was
wife.
after the meeting, right? That she showed up.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Like that's not uncommon now. I mean,
Well, no, I mean it's completely different. But this was the button down 1980s. And so I just knew that, look, if I have to apologize to you for bringing my wife and my family, then that's not a good place for me to work.
right,
So
right.
what better way to vet that than to have them show up? So no, I didn't ask permission. We just showed up.
Wow. And she
Here
even
we here
asked
we are.
questions, and they weren't like a little taken aback by it.
The guy at Grubb Ellis was, and,
Okay,
and that spoke volumes.
I'm sure.
That spoke volumes. The guys at Lee and Associates, and ironically, the gentleman that hired me was a guy named John Vogt,
Okay.
VOGT, and John's son Marshall
Hmm.
is now our office manager.
Okay.
So it's really cool. When
Yeah.
when I started, Marshall was 10 years old.
Right.
Yeah, but no, quite the opposite with Lee. So we sit down, and the first thing
Hmm.
John Vogt asks is, "How old's your baby?" This and this, and it was really cool.
So
Really,
he
really
was
cool.
humanized for, and like to me, I know 80s not is not 1960s working like in a madman advertising type setting or anything, but it was a different setting. And it's interesting how
Yeah.
down to earth human he was with the whole thing, which I think that's almost a pretty interesting tactic. Bring your spouse, women's intuition, right?
Yeah, as opposed to bring your kid to work, it's bring your spouse to
Yeah, I
interview
love
day.
it. You could start a whole new movement. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting. What do you being in you've always done industrial, correct? Like you never specialized in doing anything else. 42 years, I can only imagine how many industrial buildings were in Orange County then to now where you're working. I mean, what is so different right now, 42 years later, but what is also like the same that hasn't really changed
Yeah.
much at all?
Great question. So the thing that's different is our market is now global,
Mhm.
whereas when I started, your market was your backyard. Because we didn't have digital databases
Right.
and instantaneous communication,
Hmm.
you had to literally go out, you had to farm the streets, you had to know the buildings, you had to call the owners,
Hmm.
you had to collect and collate information on the available inventory because, once again, no multiple listing service existed.
No.
And then all of a sudden, a couple started to come into play in the mid 90s. And now all of a sudden, someone in Cleveland, Ohio could tap into North Orange County, California, and figure out what was available.
Right.
So our market very quickly became global.
Right.
okay, became global. And so the competition increased. Now, I'm not saying someone in Cleveland has the same expertise as someone in Orange, California, but it's available.
Right.
And if you've got great control over your client, you bring them into a market and you do a deal.
That's a really good point.
So that's been the biggest change in my opinion is just the technological changes which have caused our industry to be global. So that's first.
Yeah.
But what's not changed is relationships. It's still a relationship business.
Yep.
And frankly, I don't know what will change that will cause it not to be a relationship business. I certainly hope nothing causes it to not be.
Right.
But that's what hasn't changed. The relationships that you have and the relationships that you build, the relationships that you foster, the relationships that you leverage, that's what it's all about in commercial real estate.
It 100% is. I'm curious because you do a lot of mentoring now and over the years, and you've seen every technological change pretty much, I'd say. How do you, because that's something I find where I'm really pushing, I think anyone under 35 to pick up the phone and meet people face to face, because that's really like we'll have, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Like we'll have clients that are in widespread panic, if their exclusive listing signed and a flyer or an OM's not up doing an email blast like in 2 seconds, right? It takes a couple days to get it on the web and get the flyer and all the changes done and get it uploaded. But really at the end of the day, I think it's all great to have everything out there. But majority, I'd say probably 90% of our deals are picking up the phone, whether it's picking up the phone to a broker, an owner. I mean, granted, you have to do social media and do your email blasts and have everything on Crexy, CoStar, and whatnot. But I'm still waiting for a deal from any of those. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, I think we've gotten a couple from Crexy actually, but we never did from any of the others. I mean, at least I
Yeah.
haven't in 20, whatever 20 years when it came out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you get them to realize like you can't text and email constantly?
Yeah. You know, the way I do it, and I don't know if this is necessarily the right way, but the way I do is I say, here's one quick tip. If you're talking to a broker on the phone and that
Mhm.
broker is in your same city, go meet with them
Right.
in person. It's just so darn simple.
I know.
It is so darn simple. I mean, as a matter of fact, he's the top producer in a company called Voight Real Estate, which is a regional company in Southern California. They just crush it, and they've got some really really good practitioners. And their top producer in 2025 is a guy named Mike Hefner. And I've known Mike since 1985 when he first started. As a matter of fact, the very first deal he did in the business, probably my third deal, his first deal, we did together. And Mike and I got to know one another to the point that if I know something happened in the market, I call Mike. If he knows something happening in the market, he calls me.
I have one
It
of
may
those.
be a competitive set. Sure, you need a half a
You
dozen of those
do.
in your quiver, right?
Oh my
You just
gosh.
absolutely do.
You cannot have competitors you're not getting along with because you need
Exactly.
to trade information.
You do. And look, if it's in competitive marketplaces,
Hmm.
which we will see again,
Yeah.
if you don't have that advantage
Yeah. That intel.
of here are half a dozen deals. Mike, remember when we did this? Remember when we did that? Remember when I asked you to play along with me? You did. We closed, etc. So that's just so important. So take it offline. Take it offline. Meet in real life.
I
And
agree.
it's a time investment,
Hmm.
but in my opinion, it is just so critical.
And, going, kind of talking about mentoring, do you encourage, because I know you have your SIOR designation, do you encourage your brokers to go get, say, their SIOR or a CCIM? Or was it more just for you? I mean, do you think it's worth having them get these designations?
That, as
Hmm.
a matter of fact, I got my SIOR designation sort of late in my career.
When did you go get it?
I got my SIOR designation in 2018. So I've only
Oh,
been
okay. So
an SIOR
relatively
for eight
recent.
years.
Okay.
Yeah, for eight
What made
years.
you decide after so long to go do it? Being an
Well,
industrial broker.
yeah, here's what happened. I was encouraged by one of my early mentors to become an SIOR. And
Why don't we
I
back
looked,
up and explain to listeners what it stands for
yeah,
and what it means?
Society of Industrial and Office Realtors. And it's a time and grade designation,
Mm-hmm.
time in the business, earnings over a sustained period of time. And the SIOR designation puts you in, I think we have 3,800 designees globally.
Okay.
So it puts you in the top, 2-3% of commercial industrial real estate brokers throughout the world.
Right.
And so I looked around, and the folks with whom I was doing business broker wise were not SIORs. And so I kind of scratched my head and said, is this really worthwhile?
Right.
And I had a young family. A lot of the SIOR meetings were at night, and I didn't want to be away from my young family at night. Conferences were other places other than where we lived, so it would require travel. Once
Mm-hmm.
again, I was adverse to travel with a young family,
Right.
and so I just chose not to do it.
Okay.
And then in about 2014, 2015, I thought, well, I'm going to pursue my SIOR designation, and they changed the rules, and it required a certain level of income that I hadn't achieved. And
Really?
so then my competitive spirit kind of piped up, and I went, oh, wait a minute. What do you mean I can't be an SIOR because I haven't earned enough money? So then I made sure that I earned the proper amount of money and became an SIOR.
I didn't
So
know that because I'm obviously
yeah,
not in industrial, and I don't think CCIM does that. I
no,
don't think they understand
CCIM
how to
is
do
a
X amount of
different
deals.
story.
Yeah,
Right.
that's different. Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
different story. It's a matter of, well, you have to do a certain volume of
Correct.
transactions in your
Correct.
portfolio and all
That's right.
that. But no, I would highly recommend both designations. There's another one called commercial real estate counselor real estate, rather CRE, that I also highly recommend. I'm not CCIM or CRE,
Mm-hmm.
but I look and see where someone is a double or triple designee, and I think, man, that's really cool. So
That is.
it's a big deal, and I make
SIR
it a
definitely is
point,
a big deal because they know you're a big
huge deal.
producer and you've had to be in the business X amount of time. Like it just puts you on the map of experience.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're any good at what you do. It just means,
No, you at
but
least have done a handful of deals that are of certain substance. You've worked the
yeah,
market.
and the network of SAOR designees is just off the charts.
Hmm.
I make it a point to go to both conferences annually. I've gotten to know folks around the United States, and some are my dear friends to this day. And just the networking and the speakers and the level of learning and just the level of professionalism within that organization is truly remarkable. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm a big believer. So Kelly and Sadia, there you go. Love y'all both dearly.
Yeah. So, what made you decide to? When did you start writing your column, Straight Talk, and why do you do it?
Started blogging in 2009. My
Wow.
wife was getting a professional designation, I guess that's what it's called, professional designation at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in Los Angeles. And she came home after her first week in class and she says, you need to start blogging.
That's when it started. Yeah.
Right. And I said, well, I do that every day. I she says, no, not flogging, blogging. Right. And so I said, what does that mean? She goes, well, you write about what you do and you publish it online. And I said, if I do that, 3 people will read it. I'll read it twice. You'll read it once. She goes, no, you missed the point. She goes, you need to work out loud. That's when she coined the phrase work out loud.
Right.
She said, you do what you do. You post it online. It creates this digital footprint. Then all of a sudden, when someone needs your expertise, there you are online.
Hmm.
And so I started blogging.
Hmm.
There were 3 people doing it at the time.
Wow.
Coy Davidson was doing it.
Yeah, I know
Duke
Corey.
Long was doing it. Sure. Yeah, great guy. Duke's a great guy too. So I sort of looked at both of those and said, I'm not as edgy as Duke. I'm not quite as tactical as Coy. So I'm going to kind of take a middle road and started doing it. Right. And I started following a young lady named Jan Norman, who wrote a column in our local newspaper.
Okay.
And I reached out, we started collaborating. I asked her if it would be okay if I wrote a column for the paper. And she says, no, there's really not a place to do this. Anyway, it was about a 5-year journey, and ultimately was asked to author this column, which really is my location advice blog.
Mm-hmm.
It's just done for the Southern California News Group.
Got it.
And so that's the way that started.
Decide every week what you're going to write about.
It's, a lot of times it's top of mind. It's deal challenges. It's trends in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
It's brokers who have done things creatively, or it's Tori in Cleveland who has created a podcast. It's all the above.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
fun. Very fun.
Yeah.
So I'd like to segue into your book, The Sequence, and why did you write this?
A couple of reasons. The first and foremost reason is I really believed I had something to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to provide a memoir, and I wanted to provide a sort of stamp in time that our family and grandkids and great-great-grandkids could look at and realize, hey, this is what our granddad, our great-granddad, our dad did for a living, and here's how he did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it as a legacy play.
Yeah.
But I also am quite passionate about giving back to the next generation of commercial real estate professionals.
Right.
And so a piece of the book is tactical.
Right.
So the name of the sequence is a double entendre.
Mm-hmm.
The first meaning is it's the steps of a commercial real estate transaction, the sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second meaning is it's the steps and decisions that you make throughout your life that create a solid foundation to become a successful real estate broker.
If someone only implements, say, one part of the sequence, which part do you think is the best piece of advice you could give out of this book that they should implement?
Qualify.
I like
Correct.
that.
Qualify.
So they don't waste time later.
So they don't waste time later. Right. So
good.
Sequence stands for source, evaluate, qualify, under control, execute, negotiate and close, get paid, and expand. So the most, let's call it, improvement area for commercial real estate practitioners is the qualifying technique, the qualifying framework.
I like that.
So if you just simply learn that and implement that in your daily practice, you're going to be wildly more successful. The area where I believe is the most underutilized is the expand piece.
Okay.
And that's the piece where we expand our wins to create a new sequence. Mm-hmm. Bob Knackel does an amazing job at this. Yeah. Ed Winslow wrote a book about this called Proof Stacking.
Yeah, Ed did a great job with that.
It's all about stacking those wins, making sure the proper folks hear about what it is that you're doing.
What do you think is the number one mistake? So let's take it like from a rookie standpoint, reading this book. What do you think is the number one mistake they make? And what do they need to get out of this book?
I think the number one mistake that rookies make is they're too short-sighted.
Okay.
They're too short-sighted. They don't look at this as a career. They look at this as a way to make a lot of money quickly. Mm-hmm. And as you and I both know, it's not the sort of business that you make a lot of money quickly.
Right.
You make a lot of money over time. I mean, you might have a quick hit, but
of course.
consistent production.
Mm-hmm.
And I've pondered why that is. And I've come up with something. I'd love to get your feedback on this.
Yeah.
So if someone comes from a scholastic background, in other words, they've just graduated college, you think in terms of semesters. You think in terms of 3 to 4 month increments. And you're taking a course and you go to class and you take a midterm and you take a final and you achieve a grade. Mm-hmm. And so that feedback is immediate, and that feedback is on a really, really short period of time. Right? Now you start a career, whether it's commercial real estate or anything, you start a career and you're still thinking in those short time frames.
Yeah.
You're not thinking, this may not pay off today, but this may pay off 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. But it's the work I do today that's going to create that success in the future. So I think that's the biggest mistake folks make.
Right. It's like owning real estate too. I mean, being a broker, it's a long-term play.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's
patience.
And I don't fault necessarily those for making that error, because sometimes folks get in the business, they don't have the proper why,
Yeah,
which
for
I think
sure.
is huge.
For sure.
Others don't have the staying power. They've not properly planned
Hmm.
financially. How am I going to support myself if I make zero for 18 months?
This is why they need to take the series launch that Bethany Babcock started that I'm hosting in Cleveland so they could see if they really want to be a broker or not and what it takes from budgeting
Yeah,
to what you need to know.
exactly. And that's amazing what y'all are doing. And
Mhm.
I want to learn more about that, by the way.
Okay.
Um,
More offline. Definitely I'll send you the information to give your folks and people that think they
yeah,
can
'cause-
get at a Siri brokerage. I mean, it's not just for young associates. It's kids in college that are thinking about doing it. There's even people who might be looking to switch careers from attorneys to being a broker, which, there's some of those out there, and you just learn everything about what I train, what you train people on a daily basis, obviously, but it's a certification no different than your SIOR and CCIM. Like you can take that, and give it to an employer and they could see that you learned everything from due diligence zoning, how to do LOIs, what's the difference between retail, industrial, corporate services. And then you also learn how to budget your money being a commission based job.
right.
That's
That's
just
so
like,
amazing. It's so amazing. A couple of my recent interviews, I've been asked, so what do you think? Why is the attrition rate so high in commercial real estate?
yes.
Because it's close to 80%. In our office, it was closer to 84%. We were
Hmm.
losing 8.5 people out of 10 that walked through the door. And we realized that we were doing a lousy job of recruiting, vetting, and hiring. So
Well,
we
that,
had to get that cleaned up.
yeah, this is how you get that cleaned up. Like Bethany told me she doesn't even hire anyone unless they take this. So it's once a year, June, July. They figure out if they even want to do it. If they stick, you look at what their grades are because it's 10 to 15 hours a week of work. I mean, obviously, you could have a part time job or internship on the side and still do this, but it shows if you're going to be able to stick it out because, I mean, brokerage is not for the weary. I mean, this is for an entrepreneur. I'm willing to work and be aggressive and stay laser focused on my end goals.
Right. Exactly right. And then once someone's hired, I don't believe we do a great job of training them.
Mm,
I don't believe we do a great job of mentoring them. And I also don't believe we do a great job of coaching them.
mm.
And frankly, you need all three
I'm
because if
surprised
you're
you're saying
trained,
that because you're such a great mentor and so good with people. People could just be in your office listening to you on the phone or going to meetings and just, I would think, learn so much.
yeah, but understand my reach,
Hmm.
Tori. So I touch two people, three people, five people. I mean, I've got a class of 20 associates that I teach on a weekly basis.
Hmm.
I like to believe all 20 of them are getting a piece of the way I
Right.
think, the way I do my business. But most folks, present company excluded, but
Hmm.
most folks that get a new person, what do they have them immediately go out and do? Go out, find deals,
Right.
go out, knock on doors, go make phone calls. Here are these 100 companies I want you to call today.
Yeah, you have to be a creative,
They
and
have no
creativity
clue.
is
They have no
sales.
clue what to say. They have no
Right.
clue what to say. They have no clue what to do when someone says, yes, I'll meet with you. They have
Hmm.
no clue how to host a meeting, what to
Right.
say, what you want to find out, what to do beforehand. It's, it's, it's sink or swim.
Right.
And the ones that swim end up being very strong and very productive. But
Hmm.
is that the best way to learn? I don't believe so because a lot of people more drown than swim.
For sure. For sure. And they've got to learn to ask a lot of questions. And that kind of transitions me into social media. You are extremely active. And let me just say, Alan, I know you look very young, but we all know you've been in the business for 42 years. And not too many people, other than what, Bob Mackel and Beth, that are in their 60s that are on social media that have been in the business for multiple decades. And you do such a great, like, you're very genuine, you're very generally active, you really like lean into it. What is like your strategy? First of all, when did you start getting into social media and why? How'd you learn? Like, what was your strategy to stay consistent?
Yeah. So I got involved in social media in 2009 and 2010. When I started blogging, I needed a place to post the blogs. And so
Okay.
Facebook was a place I did that.
Okay.
I opened a Facebook account in 2008 because all
Hmm.
three of our kids were in college. And it
Yeah.
was a cool way to keep in touch with them.
Right.
Plus, you could keep track of folks in Arkansas that you grew up with that were
Hmm.
on Facebook. So Facebook was kind of a fun social thing. LinkedIn at that point was an online resume. Twitter was kind of a fun, quirky place that you hung out. There was a site called Plaxo, which was kind of a precursor to LinkedIn.
I never had heard of
So
them. Okay.
yeah, they don't exist anymore. So I needed a place to publish to see what reach my blog would have. And Coy and Duke and Linda Day Harrison, Matt Smith from Real
Hmm.
Next, all of them were very active. So I just realized that social media was the future. I really did. And people thought I was crazy.
I'm sure.
What are you doing? You're spending time on that just game. There are no deals that are ever going to come from that
No.
until about a year and a half after I had been actively blogging weekly, a couple times a week,
Hmm.
posting on Facebook, actively engaging, what have you. And I ended up number 2 producer in our office that year. Had a banner year. And at our bonus meeting, a couple people pulled me aside. And they said, "Hey, tell me about this blogging,"
Right. I bet.
because they thought it was that. But yeah, so I just sort of consistently did it. I realized that the key was you got to be authentic
Hmm.
because people can see through a phony.
Hmm.
The second thing is you got to be consistent because I liken it to, I still read newspapers. I liken it to, hey, if your newspaper's not there at 5 in the morning, maybe you give a guy a mulligan. But if it's not there 2 days in a row, you're probably going to subscribe to another newspaper. So you got to be consistent. If folks are interested in following your content's got to be there when you say it's going to be there. Tuesday traffic tips. I don't do Tuesday traffic tips on Wednesday. I do them on Tuesday because
Right.
that's when people expect to see them.
You stay
Right.
consistent. Exactly. And that's what
Yeah.
the name of the game is. If you're,
Yeah. And then last but not least, and I think this is what's really changed because I took a brief hiatus from social media from about 2023 to middle of this last year.
okay.
And I noticed I still posted, but just wasn't as active in the engagement.
Okay.
I noticed that content is so important now,
Hmm.
even more so than before,
I agree.
because with the way all these algos now steer content toward your interests as opposed to your follower count,
Right. That's
you
true.
got to make sure you're posting really good stuff, or it's just going to be scroll by.
Oh, for sure. And people love pictures, they love videos. And I mean, that's just a whole other time consuming ball game. Like in a way, I mean, blogging, I know it's a little time, obviously it's time, but it's not, if you're a good writer, I mean, it's not that bad, to be doing that. And it's just typing.
Yeah,
I find it interesting that your wife, Carla, she went back to school. It sounds like when your kids were back in school, going to
correct.
FIT. And of course schools are in the game of being in tech and everything, so you learned a lot from her. What I find more fascinating is that you've stayed married, you have 3 grown children. um you've I mean, look, at the end of the day, being a broker is a demanding career, even when you're a high level producer. I mean, you may not be traveling out of your region, depending, you choose to. I mean, how did you protect your marriage and your relationship?
A probably quite lucky
Hmm.
because so much of that, you're married and you've been married a long time. So much of that is who you choose, who chooses you, right?
Right.
Because if you're fundamentally misaligned, it's going to be very difficult. I don't care
Right.
how much time and effort you put into it. But that maybe for first and foremost. Secondly, I'd say I don't know how any relationships survive without faith, without a common faith.
Right.
And that can be a faith in Jesus Christ, that can be a Jewish faith, that can be a Muslim faith. I
Right.
happen to be a Christian,
Me too.
but yeah, I know you are, and I appreciate that fact about you. I don't know how any relationships survive without a very faith foundation.
I agree.
So fortunately, my wife Carla and I share that, and always did, always have. And I think finally we made our marriage, our family a priority.
Hmm.
Could I have made a lot more money in commercial real estate in the early years?
Right.
Without question.
And I'm assuming you didn't golf probably on weekends either when your kids were
Oh,
little.
no chance.
I
No
figured.
chance. unless until my boys got old enough to play, and then we would.
Themselves, right?
But not,
We
you
do.
know, not a lot. Yeah, that kind of had to go. I was an avid golfer growing up,
Hmm.
and frankly, our activities were built around our family, our
Right.
kids' activities. Our friend groups were a subset of that because we had proximity. So it was just a matter of making it a priority. I know that sounds so simple, but
Hmm.
it's not easy to do,
It's not, especially if
you
you have
know.
traveling jobs, and I know you created a boundary to stop that. But it is, I think, putting hard boundaries in place. And then is your wife share with you, like, does she also not drink and is vegan as well?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't know how you do it otherwise. So I stopped drinking in January 1st of 1991.
What made you
And
decide
Carla,
to stop drinking?
we were drinking too much, and it was frankly we were, and it was getting in our way.
Yeah.
And both, let's see, three of our four parents were drinkers. And I'm not going to say they were alcoholics because that means different
For
things to
that
different
time
people.
that's
Yeah,
was pretty standard.
very
Yeah,
social people. Carla and I were are very social. So it just got out of hand.
I get
And,
it.
you know,
I get
every
it.
night we look up and we had three little kids. And what happens if one wakes up with a stomach ache, or heaven forbid, one trips in the middle of the night and cracks their toe?
Right.
We're not in any position to take them to the doctor. This is bad
Yeah,
stuff.
I know.
So it was getting in our way.
Well, I commend you for realizing it, because you're in your high rolling 20s, you're young, you're having your kids, and you want to have fun, and it just, you don't realize how it can spiral. It does not mean you're an alcoholic. Some people learn they truly are actually alcoholics when that ball starts rolling, but at least you were all smart enough to realize we can't raise these little kids like this
And
anymore.
look, it's hard
Oh, sure.
because when we stopped drinking in
I
1991,
bet you had friends who didn't want to hang out with you, probably.
that's exactly right. We
Yeah.
had to completely change our friend group at the time.
Hmm.
And everyone I hung out with, I shouldn't say everyone, but the vast majority of folks that I was friends with in commercial real estate world, we were friends, but we were also drinking buddies.
Of course.
And all of a sudden, I wasn't drinking anymore. Nowadays, there are a lot more that don't,
I
or
agree.
moderately, as opposed to then. Then it
More,
was
more
kind of a
health
lifestyle.
Yeah,
I
it
think that's right. Right.
I think because of social media, they're like, wait, I don't want to look like the way I'm looking. And guess what? It's going to pound your pounds on is that.
Not to mention, you feel so crappy.
Totally.
Oh my gosh, I would wake up and just I just have this dull headache, and just you just don't feel like you're ready to go slay the day. You just feel like you want to stay in bed.
Yeah, you can't. I personally think you should just wait to the week and have a drink or two. And really, you can't
Yeah.
have more than two. And because that's when it gets starts. You feel sick and can't wake up, and things get crazy, and then you get six. How did you start the vegan lifestyle at the same time, or was that a different?
No.
How what that's a big decision, because I was a vegan for a while, like a couple years, and even my first child I was vegan with. The other two were vegetarian. But it's a tough one. So tell me about
It
this.
is, especially where you live,
Yeah.
when it's meat and potatoes, right?
Mhm.
It's a little easier where we live. We live in
Sure.
California, a little easier.
Yeah.
We just, it was, we had a dear friend that died at age 52,
Wow.
and he was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer when he was 42.
Okay.
And it's my opinion, and not a doctor, don't even play one on TV, but it's my opinion, had he focused a bit more on lifestyle changes,
Yeah.
he may have lived
More
longer,
alkaline diet is really what you're
right?
doing.
I mean, who knows? But that was a wake up call
Hmm.
that when that happened. And the other thing was, we just decided that, hey, let's do grass fed, let's do, range chicken. And we went to Whole Foods to buy two chicken breasts and two fillets, and it was $50.
It's so
Do we
crazy.
really need to eat meat? So we decided to quit, to try it without. And that was 2014. What was that, 12 years
Okay.
ago? And it's worked great. Now we're fortunate because in California there were vegan restaurants.
Mm,
Most places you'd go out at least had one or two vegan options.
right.
I like to refer to it as plant-based versus vegan because we're not
Right.
true vegans. We wear leather belts and that kind of thing,
I understand. Yeah, yeah. That's a good
right?
differentiation. Yeah.
Plant-based. Man, I tell you, you travel back to Arkansas where we grew up, and people looked at you sideways. And
Oh, I'm
we went
sure
back
there.
to a
Yeah.
class reunion and called and said, "Hey, any chance we could get a plant-based meal?"
Hmm.
Well, what does that mean? You mean you want a salad? Well, so yeah, it was pretty stark to make that to do that.
You've had just truly, I think, such a amazing life and something definitely to look up to, to live a as peaceful, as steady Eddie life as possible in order with work and your health, your personal life. I mean, say 20 years from now, what do you hope, people will say that you stood for?
Really believe that doing what you say
Hmm.
when you say you're going to do it, the way in which you say you're going to do it is my guiding principle. I believe if our world did more of that, we'd be a much better place. I
Right.
really truly believe that.
I agree. That's how fights start.
Faith first,
Hmm.
everything follows. Big guiding principle in my life. And I just, in 20 years, I'll be 89 years old. I just turned
Right.
69 last month. So I'll be 89 years old. My mom died at 89. My dad died at 85. So who knows if I'll even be around.
Yeah.
But, hey, you know what? He cared about, it wasn't all about the fee with the guy. He
Hmm.
cared about doing what was right for his clients. The fees followed,
I agree.
right? I'll look back and that'd be success. That's the level of success.
Right.
So
Do you what do you feel is like the one habit that changed your whole life? Do you think it was your faith, or because sometimes when you're young you really don't know faith that well?
yeah, every decision I made from probably age 14 on was faith
Oh,
based.
you
So
okay.
100% foundationally faith based. I accepted the Lord when my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 13 years old.
Hmm.
Literally every decision from that point on has been faith based.
Okay.
So 100%.
That's beautiful. I think that is really shows, like, I think the strength of your character and your life, and this has really been amazing. I love just how real, down to earth, and like practical you are with like no fluff. Just this is the real world strategy and the discipline that went behind it. And for
Your
everyone,
clients appreciate that, by the way. Your clients really appreciate that.
for sure.
I would, I guess I would add that find clients that you can be yourself around,
Yeah, I love that.
right?
Yeah.
Where you don't have to pretend.
Hmm.
And it means you have to be selective. It means you have to have a vision.
Right.
But we've all dealt with folks that you wake up in the morning and you go, oh my God, I've got to call this person and I'm
I
just
know.
not looking forward to it.
I've eliminated all them. Thank
Right. Good for you.
I
Good
I
for
I
you.
I eliminated one particular, but what's funny, it's we get was we God says, like, when one door shuts, another one opens. So I got to work with their direct competitor. Shot out of the dark. They called me, I'd even call them.
Wow. There you go. There's Providence.
But I agree. Sometimes you do have to put up with some garbage in the beginning. And in a way, it's good experience for you, really, on how to handle people and learning personality types too, and what you can tolerate and what you can't. But I mean, that's one of my biggest pieces of advice: personal relationships, friends, spouses, work. Like, you've really got to set boundaries on the types of people you work with, because when you're enthusiastic, that energy builds. They're enthusiastic to get things done.
Right. And guess what? Your advice is better.
I agree, and
Right. Your
it's
advice is better.
respectful. I mean, someone who's going to cheat you. I always say, someone's cheating on someone. Believe me, personal life, business wise, they're going to do the same to you, and you're going to sit and kill yourself to try to make a fee off them. It's not worth it.
Yeah. It's truly
There's enough
not.
people to do business with.
I largely work, it's so ironic, but I largely work with family owned, family operated companies.
Hmm.
And they're typically manufacturers, they're distributors,
Right.
which is
Yep.
precisely what my family did.
Mine too. Yeah.
I deal with folks like my dad every single day. And fortunately they're a bit nicer.
Yeah. It's a similar personality type though, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, the advice the advice I'm able to give them, the advice I'm able to share is authentic. It is from experience. It is unvarnished. I try to be kind about the messages that I deliver, but
Mhm.
sometimes you have to deliver difficult messages,
You do.
right?
You
You don't have to deliver it. You don't have to
don't have
deliver
to
it in
yell about it, just
in a mean
deliver it.
way,
Right.
but you have to have hard conversations.
Yes, you do.
So
And not be scared about it and just be honest.
yeah,
Well, that's great. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap up that you'd like the audience to know?
I love what you've created here.
Thank you.
I really, really do. I know that this is a new venture for
It
you,
is.
and I feel honored that I'm one of your first guests. I hope that people still listen after
Well,
this
you're
interview.
not the first guest, remember?
No, no, no. I know I'm not the first.
But
I'm
you're
saying
one
I'm
of the
one of the
first
first.
5. I think you're my 5th now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I know I'm
So,
not
I'm
the
honored.
first. I know I'm one of the first.
Yeah.
I hope you
You're in
still
the
have
top 10.
listeners
You put it
after
this way, you're in
this.
the top 10, Allen.
There you go.
And
Perfect.
luckily it's been successful, especially on YouTube, so far because, I've been putting videos on there for a little bit, but this is all new between social media and the podcasting, but it's been great. And I've learned a
Yeah.
lot and get tons of feedback, even from people not in commercial real estate who know me. And I think, again, what I like is, obviously I like getting business from it. We do, our company and everything, but at the same time, at my age and my experience level, I want to be able to give back and have those guests on that can give back great advice and feedback to help others, in their business and personal life. So it's been good.
And think about what our industry is
Hmm.
creating. Think about what our industry is creating between you and Aviva and Bo Barron.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave out some, and I'm sorry.
I know. There's a handful.
Chad Griffiths and
Yeah.
a gentleman locally, SIOR, who does a podcast called Adding Value. And there are just so many great ones right
Yeah. I
now.
saw you posted that yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. My friend Shante Ryle at Crexy.
Hmm.
Just think about what y'all are creating.
Right.
And this is going to live forever
By now.
somewhere,
Right.
right? And it's going to create this amazing digital information dump,
Hmm.
which people will be able to tap into for generations. And that's
Totally.
cool.
It's
It's
so
really, really cool.
I love it. I mean, I learned so much between podcasts, reading, even audiobooks. I can't really always read hard books, but it's just endless in what you learn in social media. And then it's all filtering back into our, chat GPTs and AI too. So it's amazing.
Truly.
So for everyone who's watching, if you enjoyed this conversation, definitely hit subscribe, send me a note. And I want you to tell everybody, Allen, where they can find you.
So I'm primarily social media, LinkedIn and X,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm at Allen C. Buchanan on both, I believe. So yeah, follow me there. That's awesome. If you want to email me, it's abuchanan, Buchanan at lee-associates.com. And then my mobile number, 714-624-3896. Once again, 714-624-3896. Call me, text me. Happy to talk. And yeah, this has been a really fun conversation, Tori. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And I want to make sure everyone checks out Allen's new book, The Sequence, A Personal Journey and Framework for Commercial Real Estate Brokerage Success. It's an amazing book. It's not a hard read and has a ton of wisdom and insight in there. And also, if you want to keep up with Allen too, definitely check out his column and blog with the Southern California News Group as well. So I'm really excited to see how the sequence impacts the next generation of brokers and investors, Allen. You're gonna have to keep me posted on that.
It will, and it's interesting because what it's morphed into is a whole training session. It's called
Mm-hmm.
the sequence training.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really, really excited about being able to share that to the next gen of commercial real estate professionals.
Awesome. Awesome.